Welcome back, everyone, to Two Spot Monkeys Live. Tom Bobo. I'm not Tom Bobo. That's Tom Bobo. I'm Jim. Back again after night two of Fighter Fest and Great American Bash last week. But first and foremost, Tom, how the heck are you doing?
Good, and I see that I'm slowly coming back in the battle for hair. Watch out, I'm coming
Yeah, yeah.
for you.
The carrying cross goatee is gone, and I can't remember now. Was that still there last week when we recorded? I'm trying to remember.
No, it left. Well, good. I don't remember. It left quickly after the 4th of July. My wife was pretty much refusing to kiss me because of she just can't stand a mustache. So
Well,
she's like,
well, I
"Listen."
think I did forget to tell you that my wife saw a picture, and I think the only thing she said is, "That's a look."
Yeah,
So,
nice. Yeah, the best part for at least on the work side of things, because everything's virtual now. And if I may just pause for a second,
absolutely.
listeners, viewers, wear a mask. I don't care where you live. Simply just wear a mask. It's not political. It has nothing to do with anything. Do your part. Be courteous. Slow the spread of COVID-19. We got to get rid of this thing. Sick of it. I'm sick of living the life the way I am. I want to get back to life as normal. Do your part. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Bathe in hand sanitizer. Maybe not that last part, but come on, do what you got to do. Sorry for that PSA. Back to what I was going to share. Following the holiday and returning back to work and doing all the Zoom meetings, obviously my look had changed considerably from folks that had seen me previous to the holiday, and I was on an extended PTO as well. So the folks that have seen me now, as my hair has been shorter and now growing back, they're like, "Whoa, you did something new." So fun thing there.
That's always the good thing. I saw a meme today, just to go back to your PSA, which I 100% endorse and agree with. I saw a meme today that said if Kane can be in the Royal Rumble for almost an hour and eliminate 18 people or whatever it was and wearing a mask, you can wear it while you go to the grocery store. So there you go. All right. Well, tonight, whenever you're listening to this, watching this, again, maybe I should say for the first time, if people aren't aware, depending on where you're consuming this podcast from. We've been on YouTube since we started this back. This is episode 9, so 8 episodes ago. But starting with the last episode, we are also now on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on a couple of smaller podcast platforms that I don't know. I haven't seen it show up on Google yet, but hopefully that'll be soon. And I'm looking at how in the world we get it on Podbean, since that doesn't seem to be using the same um, situation as the rest. But now you can listen to us in earbuds on a podcast, or you can watch us on YouTube, however you want. So tell your friends. Hopefully we don't bore you to tears. Otherwise, why would you be here? So we're going to
Rate,
talk tonight, though. Oh, yes.
yeah, rate, review, and subscribe, please, as other
Yes,
famous podcasters have said.
that's right. Yeah, give us the 5 stars. Give us a little review. That'd be great. It does help in whatever algorithms, especially Apple Podcasts, I know uses, which used to be iTunes. Um, when you search wrestling podcasts, um, if we have some 5 stars and some reviews, that would be helpful because other people might see us then. So it'd be fun. Tonight, what we want to do is go over Fighter Fest Night 2 and Great American Bash Night 2. Quick recap. Do our 3 big things, each for each of us from that night, not from each show. Then we want to touch on New Japan Cup and the New Japan Cup Finals and Dominion, which happened over the weekend. And then we want to do our extended Extreme Rules preview, match by match predictions, and we'll talk a little bit about the uh, pick'em competition that Tom and I began back at Backlash. Well, at least Tom remembered that there was a competition going on. I apparently had forgotten, clearly by my output in that show. But before we get there, let's talk about Fighter Fest and Great American Bash Night 2. I've got the results here, so I'll just run them down. If I can click on the right page, that'll help. AEW Dynamite Fighter Fest Night 2 started off with the tag title match. Omega and Page defended their titles against Private Party. Lance Archer then beat Joey Janela. In the 8-man tag, Pentagon Jr., Ray Phoenix, The Butcher, and The Blade defeated the Young Bucks and FTR. Excuse me. Talk about that maybe in a minute. There was a handicap match. Nyla Rose defeated Kenzie Page and Kylan King. And then after the match, her big announcement was that she is looking for a manager. And she's hired a manager, actually, I think she said. But she wasn't ready to reveal who that was yet. So more to come with Nyla Rose there. In the 6-man tag, you had Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, and Stu Grayson, who defeated SCU. And then in the main event, Chris Jericho defeated Orange Cassidy. Over on the NXT side, started off with the street fight with the ladies. Candice LeRae wins the street fight against Mia Yim. Bronson Reed then gets on the show and gets a win against Tony Nese. Johnny Gargano over Isaiah Scott. And then I was going to say their faction name, and I can't think of it right now. It's something Phantasma. Legado del Fantasma. There it is. It's basically the legacy of Phantasma. Santos Escobar, Raul Mendoza, and Joaquin Wilde over Drake Maverick, Fandango, and Tyler Breeze. Mercedes Martinez re-debuted and got a win over Santana Garrett. And then in the winner-take-all title match, the North American champion, Keith Lee, not only defends his title, but wins the NXT title by defeating Adam Cole after 400 and some days as champion to win that title and keep his NXT North American title. Obviously, a lot more to come on that, probably starting this week on NXT. But before we delve too far into that, because I got a sneaky hunch between 6 things, we might talk about that situation at some point. 3 big things coming out of Fyter Fest and Great American Bash for each Tom and I. Tom, what was your first big thing?
I feel guilty that I went first last week, so I actually want to throw it to you and let you go first.
Absolutely. We probably should have talked about that before we started. Well, I'm going to start right there with Keith Lee and Adam Cole. I thought they had a really good match, which doesn't surprise me. Big fan of both guys. They're both excellent in the ring. They can both talk. They should both be main eventers on the main roster at some point in their future. I hope that Adam Cole's size doesn't play against him, like Keith Lee's size will play for him, most likely. Both of them are main event talents and should make a ton of money in this business for a long time. I was pleasantly surprised that there was a reasonably clean finish to that match. Karrion Kross, well shown in the skybox, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm really not sure. I wasn't aware there were skyboxes at Full Sail, but apparently there's one. Was watching, and there certainly was some foreshadowing for future situations around that. He seemed very happy with Keith Lee winning, in fact. But I was glad that he didn't, you and I had talked last week about the fear of a no contest or something like that. Really glad that didn't happen because they had built it up so much. And again, big fan of both people, but I have always been a big Keith Lee fan, so I am thrilled to see him as the NXT champion. I'm thrilled to see where this leads. I think Cole had started to run out of challengers, so I think Lee can start fresh now as the champ. Obviously, we got to figure out what to do with that North American title. Saw an interesting idea of maybe at the takeover come SummerSlam, if there is a takeover at SummerSlam weekend, maybe they do a 3-way dance 2-fall match, kind of like they did with, was it Angle, Jericho, and He Who Shall Not Be Named at one of the WrestleManias, where the European and Intercontinental titles were on the line, one fall and one the other fall. Maybe they do something similar to that with like Karrion Kross, Adam Cole, and Keith Lee, or maybe Johnny Gargano is in there. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But love the match, love the finish. I was good with it, and I liked the little foreshadowing with Karrion Kross moving forward.
Yeah, that was fun, and thankful for the decisive finish and the non-Karrion Kross involvement. So the other question I would have coming out of that is, where does this leave the Undisputed Era? And what comes next. So it'll be fun to watch that play out, if it does or how it does. My number one, I'm grateful that you didn't say it. I was nervous you might, is the 8-man tag from Fyter Fest Night 2. Good golly. This was fantastic. I mean, they certainly did not do everything that they could have done, but they did so much and so much well. The finish made sense in the end, and we talked about it last week, how the Bucks are never afraid to take a fall because they're pretty Teflon in terms of their cachet, their ability, their persona, their act. Like, they can take a loss and it doesn't impact them. So having that happen here, pretty solid. And I remember, I want to say it was Nick and Ray Phoenix with the dual springboard from the second to the top, and then Nick with the Rana. That was beautiful. And then I think it has to be, it was the Ray Phoenix destroyer off of the top rope or middle rope onto that pile of people. Yikes, man! I had to rewatch that because that was just so close to being a disaster, another Hooray Phoenix disaster. But yeah, just a ton of fun, lots of good stuff in that match. Good grief, the tag division, I think we mention it almost weekly, if not every other time we join each other here. The tag division in AEW is top notch, and coming up this week, Fight for the Fallen, Lucha Bros and FTR. So dial me up for that too.
Yeah, I that was my number two, and I was looking to see, did I want to just make one comment about it and then move on to something else for number two? Nope, that deserves both of us praising it. Probably the match of all four shows over Fyter Fest or Great American Bash. Um, there were certainly some other really good matches as well. Frankly, two really strong nights of wrestling across four shows. But that was the one. That was the match. I agree that Destroyer off, into the pile of people. I remember watching it going, holy, what the, like what is happening here? Um, Pleasantly surprised, honestly, with that. We had talked about the Bucks being Teflon, but we also had talked about the Butcher and Blade being, which one of these are not like the other. Um, Kudos to AEW for giving the heels the win. Um, yes, there was a little bit of miscommunication between the Young Bucks and FTR, so that you can slow burn that. But there's no reason the Butcher and the Blade have to be afterthoughts in that tag division. Just because the tag division's deep doesn't mean they can't be a good part of it. And so to have them on the winning side, I liked that at the end, when they were standing in the entryway, it was all four of them. It wasn't just the Lucha Brothers. My fear would have been the Lucha Brothers kind of eat the glory, and Butcher and Blade just kind of slink off real quick. We've seen that happen in other shows with other companies. So I really did like that. But yeah, if somebody hasn't seen Fyter Fest Night 2, go watch the whole show. I don't think there's anything wrong with the whole show, but go watch this match. Go watch this match. Um, Absolutely. So that was my number two. What was your number two, Tom?
Yeah, one more footnote just on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it the Shatter Machine, so forgive me because I can't recall the new name of the FTR finisher. But the fact that
Let's go with it.
the Young Bucks FTR combo did that, I don't remember who for sure, who were the participants, but the fact that it was one from each team that hit the move, that was pretty fun. I thought that was a cool spot. My number two would be the street fight on NXT. That actually was something that exceeded my expectations. I should never be surprised. In a way, I kind of put Candice LeRae into that Jay Lethal category. So obviously, I've never really told that story before, but like Jay Lethal was always someone that like I was kind of lukewarm on him all the time. And then when he got in the ring, I was like, man, he's great. I love it. It's awesome. He's doing good stuff, and I'm super engaged. Candice isn't totally like that for me, but she has kind of fallen into that trap at times for me. But then things like the Io Shirai match happened from a takeover a while ago, and then this street fight, and then you just, oh my word, they did a lot. They were brutal, and then the ending of the match, the neck breaker off the wedge table onto a pile of chairs. I mean, again, if you've ever seen anything that Candice LeRae did with another wrestler who we won't talk about due to some other reasons in PWG, you know she's hardcore as heck. But this was solid. And I'm quite shocked, to be honest with you. I mean, I would say this is the definitive match in their feud. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they reconvene Candice and Johnny against Keith and Mia. However, this seemed to be very decisive. So, pending the outcome of the next NXT title match between Shirai and Tegan Knox, you would think that Candice LeRae is right back in line.
Yeah, that was a really, really strong match. Great way to start off the show for NXT that week. My third thing was I went back and forth on a few different things because, like we said, it was a really good week of wrestling, a night of wrestling. But I'm going to go with Nyla Rose and the search for the manager or who her manager will be. It harkens back for me to the Bam Bam Bigelow days when he came into the WWF, and there was every manager wanted to sign Bigelow. I don't know if you remember this, Tom, or not, but Slick wanted him, and Fuji wanted him, and Hina wanted him, and he ends up debuting Sir Oliver Humperdinck as his manager out of kind of nowhere. Humperdinck, had worked, I think, down in Florida, hadn't been in WWF before, or if he had, it was not anything, front and center. Uh, and so Oliver Humperdinck ends up becoming his manager. So I'm kind of curious. And knowing the way that Cody, especially Cody, really loves his history and loves little callbacks to things, it kind of makes me wonder if that's a little bit of what they're doing here. It's not the same because she's not looking for a manager. She said she's hired one, but she's not ready to reveal who that is yet. Um, if you look at the managers you've got in AEW right now, I think we can rule out the Nightmare Family. I think we can rule out Brandy Rhodes. Tully Blanchard, maybe. Uh, Arn Anderson, again, that's with the Nightmare Family. I think we can rule that out. Jake Roberts, maybe. That would be interesting. Nyla's not great on the mic, so I think her having a manager will be interesting. But I have a sneaky hunch it's going to be somebody that isn't there right now or that we haven't seen right now. I almost wonder if it could be a female manager too, and I don't know who that would be. Yeah, so I'm just curious. I suppose it could be Luther if they want to turn him into a manager, but let's hope not. I don't know. I'm just interested. I like these little mysteries when they do them. My one downfall that I have is that I usually build it up too much in my head and enjoy it too much until the payoff, and then the payoff stinks because I'm expecting something great. So we'll see how that works out. But that was my number 3. I'm looking forward to seeing who Nyla Rose has picked as her manager, and is this manager only going to manage Nyla, or is there a stable that's going to come out of this?
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch develop. I can't believe we're already at the third thing for each of us. I mean, I feel like there's a bunch of things we could talk about, but I like that we're doing this format. It makes it nice and tight and concise. And while there could be other things that we have thoughts and feelings on, we're really narrowing it down. My third is going to be as a former huge ECW fan. I remember very vividly, actually, probably was the summer of '95, getting a 4-episode tape of fall '94 ECW TV, and I swear to you, the fact that I didn't wear the tape out for how many times I watched it, it was the build to November to Remember '94, and then that was the key that unlocked my fandom, and I watched ECW religiously and made pay-per-views a destination. And Taz was one of my most favorite wrestlers growing up. So having the FTW title reintroduced and given to Brian Cage was really interesting and exciting. I'm eager to see where that goes with Fight for the Fallen and the AEW title on the line. Uh, you don't want to have Brian Cage lose, perhaps, and undermine the value of the FTW title. But again, it was never on the same level back in ECW against the ECW World title. So it'll be fun to watch how that continues to play out this week. And Taz as a mouthpiece for Brian Cage, while I don't think it's a bad thing by any means, it's given an added layer to him, and it's been fun to watch develop. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Taz's line. I think it was 2 weeks ago when they announced that the match was being pushed back to this week for Fight for the Fallen, when he said that we don't run a sloppy shop here as far as COVID testing goes. A little bit of a shot taken there. But you can't say that he wasn't right either. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. And Taz is not afraid to take shots. I like Taz as a mouthpiece. I'd be fine if Taz had a stable, but I'm okay with him just staying with Cage too. Cage has never been known as a huge promo guy. I think he's fine on the mic. I don't think he's not Sid on the mic or anything where you're like, God, what is he going to say? Or Scott Steiner doing math. But, Taz is phenomenal on the mic. So that's a great way to use Taz. All right. Well, moving on from Fyter Fest and the Great American Bash, like Tom said, we could sit here and probably talk about each match individually and do a whole show just on that. But alas, real life comes and we only have so much time in a given week to sit and do podcasting. So we are going to move on to a little bit of discussion. And we really haven't talked about a format for this, for the New Japan Cup Finals and Dominion. We'll just hit the highlights, though. New Japan Cup Finals, obviously, Evil wins the finals over Kazuchika Okada, calls out Naito and turns on him and joins the Bullet Club, seemingly becoming the de facto leader of the Bullet Club too in the process. keeping in mind that Jay White is stuck over here in the United States and Kenta is as well. There really wasn't a leader outside of maybe Gedo for the Bullet Club. I think that the likelihood of Jay White or Kenta making it back to Japan anytime in the real near future is pretty slim. So I think they just felt they needed to do something, and maybe this was the plan all along. I can't help but think it wasn't. I don't think when Naito won the title at Wrestle Kingdom, the plan was to flip it to Evil in July. But hey, a pandemic comes and we talked about, do you throw out the booking? I think they have in some ways, and then in other ways they've certainly kept the booking. At Dominion, lots of undercard stuff, but the three kind of main matches: Shingo over Sho to keep his never openweight title. The tag match went exactly as you and I thought it would, and Taichi and Zack Sabre winning the tag titles. I know you haven't seen that match yet. I hope you knew the result, or I just ruined it for you. And then the world title, Evil becomes the double champion and beats Naito after a couple of low blows and a fake Bushi coming out and interrupting. And the fake Bushi is Dick Togo, or as Bruce Pritchard calls him, Dick to go. And Evil has now put on Twitter that that's his new partner. Is the phrase he used. He used a different word, but it translates to partner. Originally, somebody thought maybe Dick Togo was going to be his manager, but I think Togo's working, and he is working actually at least one of the upcoming shows here in a 6 or 8 man tag. But Evil is your IWGP and Intercontinental Champion in New Japan. Naito cannot get himself a run with that big title to save his life. What were you thinking, Tom? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm going to start there because I love the point you made, and I love that storytelling. Like that is the story of Naito. Like he can acquire the title, and they just can't get the wheels moving. So, in hindsight, I'd say you should have saw this coming, but you probably wouldn't have seen this coming because, again, I don't think anyone saw Evil winning the New Japan Cup. But then, even as you look back in the New Japan Cup and you watch how he wrestled his matches and how he was, for lack of a better term, evil throughout the matches and how it built and built and built, the foreshadowing was there the entire time. So I actually enjoyed the main event of Dominion. I thought it was it was a long match. It wasn't super like high paced or energetic, and with a diminished crowd. Again, and crowds were back, so that was awesome. It wasn't maybe as loud as it could have been. That being said, like it all made sense, and I can take or leave the Bullet Club interference, but that's kind of what they're known for. They're the main heel faction here in New Japan. So the way they were getting down with it, and then the introduction of Dick Togo, I mean, it works. And again, I think to your point, it's very fair to say whether this was actually part of the plan or they pivoted and went left when you thought they were going right. You need a stronger face of the Bullet Club, and they've gone that route with Evil.
Yeah, I mean, Gedo wasn't going to be he can be a manager face, but he's not going to, obviously, at this point in his life, be the working face. Who thought in 2020 that Yujiro Takahashi would be entering into a feud with Kazuchika Okada? So they're certainly going to try to make Takahashi a little stronger. We'll see. I thought the main event match was a little long. Like you mentioned, I think they definitely could have trimmed it some. But in the end, hey, sometimes we complain as wrestling fans that that we can see everything coming. Everything's too predictable. Find me the person who predicted Evil was going to win the New Japan Cup, become the leader of the Bullet Club, and beat Naito at Dominion. And I'll tell you that person's lying. There's nobody that predicted that. There might have been somebody that predicted him winning the Cup, maybe. I can tell you of the 7 people that were in our pick, certainly nobody had Evil. in their pick'ems. Clearly, your dog does not think Evil was going to win the title either.
It's not my dog. It's the neighbor's dog, and it's
It's the
super
neighbor's
annoying.
dog. Okay, the neighbor's dog thinks. Tom's like, my dog would never act that way. But you know, I just maybe somebody would have thought Evil was going to win the tournament, but nobody saw him winning the title. So kudos to New Japan for doing something that nobody saw coming. And I'm willing to let it play out. I think some people have poo-pooed it, or they hate that the Bullet Club is taking over again, or they're played out, or whatever that all is. Let's let it play out. Let's let it have some fun. You know what? If it stinks, hopefully they'll turn it around and zig or zag again. Somebody said they wished it would have been Shingo. Okay, selfishly I would too, because I just really like Shingo. But Shingo just came into the heavyweight division. I think Evil's at least a little more established in that division, so I'm fine with this. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the never openweight 6-man tag titles, because Evil, Shingo, and Bushi are the current 6-man titles. My assumption is they just say LIJ are the 6-man tag champs, and Sonata takes that spot or something, or Hiromu maybe even sometimes, if they do like a Freebird rule with it. So officially right now, Evil is actually Evil 3 belts, not 2 belts, because he officially is still one third of those 6-man tag champs. I'm interested to see. They've got was a New Japan Road coming up later this month, which is kind of one of their Road 2 shows. It's a lot of tag matches and that sort of thing. And then Sengoku Lord, I think, is the name of the next match coming up, or kind of pay-per-view coming up, where it is Naito against Hiromu. No, not Naito against Hiromu. Evil against Hiromu. I knew that didn't sound right when I said it. Naito Hiromu is what I thought we were going to at Dominion. Evil versus Hiromu. You've got Kazuchika Okada versus Yujiro Takahashi. And El Desperado getting that never open weight title shot after he attacked Shingo after his match. So that should be really good too. Desperado's looked really good here in this restart as well. And a bunch of other matches too. We did mention last time, Tom, Master Wato. I don't know if you were able to see his 2 matches from the Cup finals, when he had the 1-on-1 with Doki, and then the 6 or 8 man, whatever he was in at Dominion. Did you get to see anything of Wato?
I saw the singles, but not the tag.
Okay. I thought he looked good in the singles.
Yeah.
The gimmick is really stupid. I think they're going to have to work on that. It just doesn't scream top guy to me. But they can tweak that and figure that out. In the ring, though, I thought he looked good. And that's saying something, because I don't think Doki was leading him to anything, because I don't think Doki is Dookie. So I don't think he's any good in the ring, really. I thought his name was Dookie the first time that I saw him announced. So anyways, before we get into 12-year-old jokes, I thought Wato looked pretty good in those matches.
I agree. So just a couple of responses to some of the things you shared. The Okada Takahashi match, again, while probably not sexy on paper, they have a history. I think that Takahashi also interfered. I saw somewhere, it was either New Japan's social media or something on Twitter, where he was the reason why Okada lost the belt to AJ Styles, I believe, years ago. And again, I'm not a New Japan historian by any means, so if I'm wrong and you're listening, shoot me a tweet and correct me, or not. It doesn't matter to me.
Hey, we haven't gotten hate tweets yet, so that's what we're
right. So that's again, that long-term storytelling. That's my point in making that comment. Is there's some long-term storytelling there, so it makes sense they're having a singles match. In addition to that 6-man never open weight 6-man, they also have the junior belts, because Yo is injured. That are kind of out there right now, that we don't know what's going to happen. And then good old Jon Moxley. Again, if we're not getting Jay White or Kenta, we're not getting Jon Moxley. So some of the decisions about titles in New Japan are going to need to be made here relatively soon, you would think, or at least some. If they don't make a decision about those titles being switched, and I think with your thought about the LIJ Freebird rule makes a lot of sense. Again, too, if we're going to get a full-blown Bullet Club LIJ feud, I could see the Bullet Club winning those belts too, coming up here in some form or fashion. So yeah, and then the last thing I just want to say, because we didn't really hit on it, Give me Shingo Takagi and Sho in all of the days that end with Y, because that was awesome once again. And top 5 wrestler for me right now that I want to like make a time and make appointment viewing, it's Shingo for sure.
And Sho's going to be a star for them. He's it wouldn't be the worst thing for him for them to go ahead and strip those junior titles from them if Yo is going to be out for any length of time. And maybe they're just done as a tag team in the junior division for now. Again, if Yo is going to be out for any length of time, and let Sho go and do some stuff. He's certainly looking more heavyweight than junior. He's put on an awful lot of size for his frame. Yeah, Sho's got a future. Maybe he's going to be a junior heavyweight champion before he's going to go maybe the Osprey route and do junior heavyweight and the Omega route for that matter, and do junior before heavy. But I think Sho will be just fine with Yo being out hurt. If it was the other way around, I don't know that I'd say the same thing. I think that might turn into like an Uso situation in the WWE where when one Uso is out, the other one's here hosting stupid karaoke segments. But that's a story for a different time when we're talking about SmackDown, perhaps. That's a bad show Friday. Anyways, so now that we have talked about the wonderfulness that is New Japan and Shingo and Sho and the 8-man tag from AEW, now we're going to switch gears. And we are going to talk Extreme Rules. It is this weekend. Tom and I usually we've done it once so far on this show, but back in the day when we last were doing Two Spot Monkeys podcast, we did a ongoing series called Head to Head. There was a little something on the line usually in Head to Head too. We'll have to talk about whether we want to reinstill the stakes. Usually it was a T-shirt or figure of the. Well, I guess that became our football bet, the T-shirt of the figure situation. Head to head, you had to shave your head, which I don't think you ever actually owned up to with me.
It just happened. I'm growing it back right now.
Oh, was that what it was? You were paying off the head-to-head bet. And then you did wear a Chicago Bears shirt to a wrestling show, a Ring of Honor show that you and I both attended in Chicago, because I won 2 years in a row of that competition. However, as I mentioned at the top of the show, after Backlash, right now I am losing the current competition. One show in, Tom went 5-2 at Backlash and has a 2-match lead, as I went 3-4. I think we both missed the same 2, and then I picked Jeff Hardy over Sheamus, which didn't work out, and I went out on the limb with Bobby Lashley, and that didn't happen either. So the fear came true. Lana came down, screwed it all up, and here we are. That storyline seems to have gone away, although Rusev has COVID, so Lana probably isn't coming to work right now either.
Her parents, she posted on social that her parents.
There was something going on with her parents,
so,
yeah.
That's unfortunate.
It is, and she seemed like she and Natalia, I think, had formed a team, and maybe they'll get back to that. Obviously, she's got more important things going on right now. As much as I can rag on how that match ended a month ago. In real life, Lana, CJ Perry, I think everybody knows her name. Thoughts and prayers to their family as they go through an awful lot of stuff all at once. That's a lot. But let's talk Extreme Rules. There are 7 matches again on this card, much like there were last time. Mentioned to Tom before we started recording. Really think they're going to add a Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza, but maybe that'll wait until Monday, like the Orton Big Show match is too. I don't know. But they haven't added it, so we're not going to pick it. Last month, they hadn't added the Raw Tag Team title match either, and it became that thing with a trash monster. So you never know. Something could come up. Just said the word trash monster the second time on this podcast. What are they doing? We'll get to things like that. But before we get to that, let's go match by match, make our predictions, talk about the matches, talk about the build, whatever there is to it. But let's kick off with a SmackDown women's title match. Bayley, the champion, Bayley 2 belts, versus Nikki Cross getting the title shot here after she won, I think it was a 4-way a couple of weeks back on SmackDown to get this title shot. Tom, I went first on the 3 things, so why don't you go ahead and go first here on the Extreme Rules pay-per-view?
Yeah. So again, keeping the ongoing theme that I felt with Bayley, I think the ultimate end goal is Bayley as champion against Sasha as challenger at some point. It may be longer now than what I thought originally. I had kind of thought SummerSlam and when it was going to be in Boston and the history with Sasha in Boston and all that other stuff. That's obviously not on the table anymore. Doesn't mean the match doesn't come together. And they've been actually one of the brighter spots on WWE TV as women's tag champs, and just the presentation that they have brought to the TV has been solid. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. We'll talk about Sasha later. I don't see Bayley. I did want to say all that to say I don't see Bayley losing the match here. I think Bayley wins and retains. It should be a good match. She's actually been one of the better heels of the year. In a time when you're looking for people to stand out in different ways. Bayley has done that. So good for her. It's been a fun. She's one of the reasons you want to tune in to watch WWE on nights where SmackDown is bad. So yeah. So I expect a solid match. Nothing too noteworthy to think of right now. Maybe next week we'll both be surprised.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. No way Nikki Cross wins this title match because, like you said, the story is clearly headed towards Bayley and Sasha eventually, whether that's SummerSlam or somewhere else. I tend to think it probably will still be SummerSlam because I don't know what else you do at SummerSlam unless you do Bayley and Sasha versus, like, you can get Trish and Lita to come in or something like that for a big show, but you'd almost rather have a crowd to put that in front of. So, yeah, I like Nikki Cross. But I don't see it. Could Alexa Bliss finally turn on Nikki Cross? Because I think ever since they've become a team, everybody's expected that, and they never did it. Kudos to them for not doing what everybody expected them to do and actually letting the story play. Maybe I think Alexa makes a little bit better of a heel than a babyface. She's fine as a babyface, but is that nasty heel? Alexa's really good. Although they've got an awful lot of top heels in the women's division, so Alexa's babyface is a good thing too. But yeah, Nikki's not winning this title. But Nikki's good, so I agree with you. I think this will be a fine match. Will it be the match of the night? Probably not. But will it be something that we're saying, gosh, that was just horrible? I don't think it needs so either. I think it'll be just fine for what it is. Next match up is the U.S. title match. Apollo Crews trying to win the new U.S. title. It was really weirdly worded. There's a U.S. title belt, but like he's got to beat MVP to get it, even though he's the U.S. champ. At least MVP isn't holding it in the picture on WWE.com. First things first, I don't think the belt looks that bad. Could it have a little more blue accents to it behind the stars? Maybe make it pop a little more? Sure. But the new belt actually doesn't look too bad. I'm a nostalgia guy when it comes to belts. The Intercontinental title is terrible. The new Intercontinental title is awful. They never should have changed. They shouldn't have changed it from what they were using, which was the old belt. I was fine with the white strap. That's fine. Of course, to me, it's Ricky Steamboat holding it with the black strap at WrestleMania 3. That's the Intercontinental belt. It's pretty much the same title with just the WWF WWE change that they had been using. That new one is terrible. The U.S. belt, I'd love to see them use the one that Dusty Rhodes and Lex Luger wore. They're not going to do that. So this new one, I think, is fine. It's not nearly as hideous as the Intercontinental belt. This story is weird to me because MVP is trying to recruit Apollo Crews, and I still think eventually Apollo Crews is going to join that stable with Lashley and him. And maybe Shelton Benjamin, we'll see. Seemed like for a minute they were going to do something with Benjamin, and then he hasn't really been around. But MVP's not going to be the U.S. champion. That would be a stupid move. So I think Apollo Crews wins this match. Whether it leads to some sort of respect and Crews eventually then does join on Monday or something, I don't know. But I think Crews keeps the U.S. title here.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. And I'm really surprised. I'm not totally caught up on Raw yet, but from what I feel like I've been paying attention to prior to the episode that aired this week, I was really thinking they were heading towards Apollo versus Lashley. And I was not to throw Apollo's reign off the tracks or let him get some momentum as champion. I thought that Lashley not winning the title, which your hypothesis and thought about that with McIntyre wasn't off base, and so I thought based on that, the next step to keep Lashley relevant, because he's been one of the more consistent figures in this time, would be to have him get the United States title. And again, then you're a bad guy, and it's easier to have good guys chase bad guys. We'll see. Yeah, and I like the idea of the faction, because isn't MVP also trying to recruit Cedric as well and draw and make some dissension between Cedric and Ricochet? So
seems like so.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Maybe somehow, some way we get a 6-man. Maybe I don't. Again, we both agree that the title's not switching here. If we're wrong, then that'll be fun to talk about next week. But give me Apollo, Ricochet, Cedric versus MVP, Lashley, and Shelton, and then give me a turn by somebody on the face side that maybe we're not expecting. Maybe it's Ricochet. Who knows?
Absolutely. Well, we're 2 for 2 on picks, and now we come to one of the matches that we differed on last month. I believe the only rematch from last month. Did Cruz face MVP last month? I don't remember.
No.
No, I didn't think he did. So yeah, the only rematch we have from from Backlash, excuse me. But this time, I believe we're going cinematic. We're doing a bar fight between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. It looks like there could be up to 3 cinematic CGI something matches on this show, which will be something to talk about here as we move forward. But the first one we're going to talk about is the bar fight. And I went first last match. So Tom, what are you thinking of the bar fight?
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued for how this is going to get put together, and it makes me think back a little bit when I hear the word bar fight. My mind goes to the old hardcore title, and when they would have like the hardcore title matches on Raw, where they would be at the venue and then they would spill into a local bar because they'd be like downtown somewhere, downtown Nashville or downtown Boston or somewhere else. So those were fun, and obviously, of course, it was a hardcore match, so there was a lot of bottle smashing, pool sticks, all that other fun stuff. Foreshadowing Jeff Hardy, Swanton off the pool table. Here it comes. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think this is the right type of match for a cinematic match, not a tag title match that isn't actually a tag title match where we have a trash monster rearing its ugly
And ninjas.
tentacle. Yeah, and ninjas as well.
At least the ninjas stuck around, I guess. But
Right. I'm gonna go with Jeff Hardy as my pick. So I think that with all that's been going on with the antagonizing of Sheamus and having him win last month, I think it makes sense for Jeff Hardy to win here and get his revenge.
yeah, I agree. This type of match works in a cinematic way, if any do. And some of those cinematic matches have been better than others. We've talked about that before. This is fine. Well, I haven't loved the story, the fake DUI thing and all of that, and we threw pee on somebody on SmackDown one week. Vince McMahon loves his pee and puke jokes, doesn't he? He never got past 8 years old. I don't know, but I agree. This will be fine. It'll be a brawl. There will be bottles broken. There will be a swanton off something. Is it a swanton off something onto a pool table? Maybe. Is it a swanton off the pool table? Maybe. Is it a 2-level bar where Jeff can jump off a balcony? I just saw totally an aside on Twitter maybe today that like 8 years ago today, I think it was I believe the first ROH show in Milwaukee, and at the Turner Hall Ballroom, and Mark Briscoe jumped off the balcony, threw Kevin Steen on a table in the ring. Do we see something like that at the bar fight? If there's 2 levels to the bar, maybe, I don't know. But I picked Jeff Hardy last month. I was wrong. I'm picking Jeff Hardy again. We'll see if I'm right finally this time. This one I should have seen last month coming. Sheamus wins to set up some sort of decisive match. This being that decisive match, Hardy should win that match, especially after losing last month. So they seem to like Jeff Hardy. They seem to want to push him again. So that might be because they don't want him to go to AEW when his contract comes up and go join his brother. So that's okay for Jeff Hardy if that works out. I think Hardy wins that match. Excuse me. Moving on to the Raw Women's title, Asuka defending the title versus Sasha Banks, and Asuka actually also already has her next challenger lined up. You probably haven't seen this yet, Tom. It didn't happen on Raw. It happened on Raw Talk last night. Kairi Sane said that if she gets past Sasha Banks, Kairi is ready for Asuka. And they hugged, and so it seems like it's going to be an amicable thing. A lot of rumors about Kairi Sane's future. So this might be a swan song kind of thing for her if she really is leaving. We'll see. But again, the build is to Sasha Bailey. I don't see that being a title for title match because I don't think combining the SmackDown and Raw title again, like Becky did, makes any sense. You did that to make Becky the man. I don't think you need to make Bailey or Sasha the man. So I don't see any way Sasha wins here. I actually think probably Bailey has some interference that backfires and causes Asuka to win the match, thus leading to a little bit more dissension, thus leading towards Sasha and Bailey. If it is going to happen at SummerSlam, now's the time to start that ball. It's been rolling slowly anyways, but maybe you give it a little kick down the hill here by Bailey backfiring and not intending to cost Sasha the match. Or maybe it's one of those things where did she mean to or didn't she mean to, kind of thing. Was she jealous of Sasha? I think that'll all be interesting to see how it plays out because I think Bailey probably stays the heel when that match does happen between her and Sasha. I just think that makes more sense. And I think people are more willing right now to cheer Sasha than Bailey. So all that said, having nothing to do with Asuka, I think this is going to be a really good match. I think Asuka has a future challenger starting to make a few waves on her return last night with Shayna Baszler coming back to Raw. I don't want to see them hotshot that for SummerSlam, but that's a story for another title. Story for another episode. But this one, Asuka. Asuka gets the win, and if I had to bet, I would bet it's botched Bailey interference that leads to it. But we're not picking the finish necessarily, just the winner.
Yeah, no, but you make a good point there, and I think that's fair. I think we're both in agreement that the end game is a Sasha Bailey match. If we're both wrong, we'll eat crow here together on Two Spot Monkeys Live. That being said, this match, in my opinion, will have a definitive visual pinfall by Sasha Banks, where it's clear that she can and did beat Asuka, but because of something, likely Bailey or definitely Bailey, it backfires and Asuka will get the win, and that doesn't diminish Asuka in any way, unless they do some different finish where it goes right from the visual pinfall that doesn't actually happen in reality to the Bailey component to Asuka with a roll up, and maybe that does happen. Who knows? But yeah, Asuka retains here. I wasn't aware of the Kairi Sane kind of maybe the sunsetting on her WWE tenure, but it would be great to have her have a great swan song match against Asuka if that's the case.
Yeah, and I don't know when that'll happen. They didn't talk about a timing on it, but they both said it was a match they wanted on Raw Talk, which obviously was set up for a reason there. So be interesting to see. But yeah, so we both so far we are 4 for 4, picking the same winners for all of these matches. Now we get to one that I used a 4-letter word on when Tom and I were running down the format for this. It is an eye for an eye match. Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio, and WWE has come out and said that the way that you win this match is you remove your opponent's eye from its socket. That is a real sentence that they have actually said. Not eye for an eye like we had Moxley versus Santana because, they had each injured each other's eyes, so they called it an eye for an eye, but it was really just a grudge match. No. Someone has to pull somebody's eyeball out to win this match. What third dimension of not heaven have I landed in? Oh my goodness. I don't even know who went first last match now. This one has me all asunder. Um,
You went first,
all
and
right, good. Tom, save me
yeah,
from this.
no, I'm sad that I have to go first here because when I looked at the card before our conversation today, I knew the pick'ems were coming, and I thought we'd have a lot of consistency. I don't know, maybe we do here too, but this is a weird one because it's just uncharted territory. Uh, how are they going to produce literally an eyeball, and then how are they going to? I mean, I guess the easy follow up is someone has an eye patch, forever, or not, or something.
Let's be
Who knows?
honest. It'll be 2 weeks, and then they'll miraculously heal and be able to see.
Right. So the the story here is revenge for Rey Mysterio, without a doubt. Yeah, the horror show. That's what this is, the horror show. This and then the next match I think we're going to talk about are like the reasons why that tagline is being applied to Extreme Rules. Um, I don't know what more I can say. I'm really excited for what like the in ring is going to be for this match. Don't it's actually one of the matches probably on equal footing with Sasha and Asuka as being like the two in ring that I'm most looking forward to. But like I just don't know, and I'm like I've given it thought, and my thoughts have been processed in full. This tip just throws me for a loop. So my pick's Rey Mysterio. I don't know how Seth Rollins is going to actually lose an eye and how they're going to pull that off, and then what they're going to do. And again, I know you were being tongue in cheek that it will be a 2 week patch job, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, the Messiah has been healed. Uh, yeah, we'll see. What are you? Please, I'm eager to hear how you feel.
Well, I definitely think there's going to be some CGI silliness here to produce that eye, and I'm curious to see how terrible it looks, um, because it's just it's gonna be bad. Maybe again, maybe I'll eat crow, and next week I'll come back and be like, they really pulled off a creative way to do that. Um, I don't have a lot of hope for that, but we had a trash monster last month. Now we got an eyeball dangling out of somebody's head this month. Why? Why, Vince? Um, Bruce Pritchard is clearly overworked and tired. He needs somebody to take over one of these shows. I agree with you, though. This could go either way, honestly. And you're right. I think maybe part of my frustration with this is Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio in a one on one match with a good story behind it, story for revenge, all of that. You don't have to add the stupidity of the eye versus the eye thing. This can be in ring if they don't just constantly go to eye gouges and I'm going to try to rip your eye out every 3 seconds. Um, if they don't do that and just have a match for a while until you get to a place where your opponent is so prone that you can. What move do you use to remove an eyeball? I mean, do you just stick your finger in there and pop the sucker out? Do you do you use an object? What what does one use to remove an eyeball? I don't know. Um, but it could be good. There's no reason these two can't have a really good match. And I think that's my frustration is you set up a story, you set up stakes or a reason for this match to take place. Just let the match take place. It doesn't need a stupid stipulation, especially one that you can't, without CGI or something, actually deliver on. You're not going to have Seth Rollins or Rey Mysterio take an eyeball out of their socket. You're simply not going to do it. Um, yeah, I could see this being Mysterio's swan song. There have been stories out that maybe he's not under contract anymore. Um, you got to think WWE again, much like I said with Jeff Hardy, doesn't want him going anywhere else either, because Ray would be very welcome, I'm sure, in AEW. New Japan would probably love to get their hands on him if they can get anybody out of this country and over there. Ring of Honor would love to have somebody with Rey Mysterio's name show up on one of their shows. Uh, so you got to think Vince doesn't really want to lose him. So it's but if Ray's leaving, this could be a way to do it. Um, I've gone both ways though too. I think it makes more sense to say Mysterio. Uh, because I can see Seth Rollins with the patch. I think he wore a patch last night for a little bit. I don't know, for a promo or something. I can see him, and I can actually see them doing, Tom, exactly what you just said. The Messiah heals himself in a couple of weeks, and they just forget this ever happened, which might be the best thing to do. They probably should have forgotten it when they wrote it down as an idea for this match, but they didn't. So here we are. I'm going to go Mysterio, which probably means we're going to be well, I don't know. We've got a chance in the next match. I kind of feel like the main event, we're going to probably pick the same. But
before we get to the next match, I just
yes.
want to say, because we haven't touched on this yet, and I know we're going to probably get into it, at least with the final match. For an Extreme Rules show, to not have the traditional stipulations that we would maybe expect, ladder, table, chair, falls count anywhere, I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised by that. And not to armchair book, but I'm prone to do that every once in a while when we're on here chatting.
Otherwise, why would we have a show?
Right. I don't know why that you wouldn't have had Seth Rollins say, Ray, I've got no reason to fight you. I've already proven that I'm dominant over you by almost taking your eye. I'll only get in the ring with you if you put up Dominic to be forced into my group, to be part of my, and I'm having a word retrieval moment, so forgive me.
My ministry, my whatever.
Yeah, whatever that's called, and obviously it's diminished because Austin Theory is nowhere to be seen. But like, you know what I mean? Like, different from how Eddie Guerrero and Ray had the thing with Dominic years and years and years ago. But Dominic, if I'm not mistaken, is a trained wrestler or has been training to be a wrestler.
Has been training at least, yeah.
Right. So if you're looking to keep Ray around, a dangling carrot would be, we're going to let your son get involved more than he has been. That would be maybe a more emotionally charged match. Even though I don't want to lose my eyes, I'm glad that I have two that work and function well. So I wouldn't want to put one up in a match, but here we are. So
and the only way I would see maybe the way Seth wins is, does Dominic turn, and does Dominic join Seth? We've seen the son turn on the father, kind of gets overplayed. But I could see it. I could see that being a way that Seth gets the win. But I'm going to stay with Mysterio. Yeah. Again, there's lots of ways they could have written this match that would have worked just fine without this stupid stipulation. Boy, if I didn't go on a rant about Santana and Ortiz last week, I have now. All right. Well, let's talk about something that I'm sure is going to make us just think much better, and that's the Wyatt Swamp match between Bray Wyatt, old school Bray Wyatt, it appears, with the Florida print shirt and the fedora, I guess, for lack of a better word, for the hat, versus Braun Strowman. They're playing off the history, obviously, of Strowman being in the Wyatt family. To me, this is all leading towards The Fiend. The Fiend at SummerSlam, most likely. Braun and The Fiend at SummerSlam for the title. Braun beat Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt, a couple of months back. Now he's facing Bray. I fully expect, obviously this is a cinematic match, I fully expect lots of Gaga here. It worries me a little because it reminds me of the Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, Sister Abigail, Hunt for Sister Abigail, or whatever in the world that was, which was not good. That was not good, which of course led to their WrestleMania match, which was really not good, when they, put maggots and stuff on the ring. But we're not here to critique that WrestleMania. This is going to be good, but I think Braun Strowman wins it, because otherwise, if Bray wins this one, I don't know why you need The Fiend at SummerSlam, and I do think that's where they're heading. Now, do I think The Fiend might be able to beat Braun at SummerSlam? Well, tune into our SummerSlam head-to-head to find out. But there's a little foreshadowing for you. But I think Braun wins this match. This will be fine. I think maybe a cinematic match with Braun is not a bad idea, because you can retake things and make it look good, kind of like did with the Undertaker in the Boneyard match. Far be it from me to call this anywhere near the Boneyard match as far as quality and or importance in the grand scheme of wrestling. But I think this will be fine. This appears to be a non-title match from all accounts, but I don't think it matters because I see Strowman winning this match and moving on then to the only way that Wyatt can beat him is to bring out the Fiend come SummerSlam. So there's my pick.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a difference then because I'm gonna go with Bray Wyatt. I think this is what leads to the title match. Even though I do agree with your opinion that it is the Fiend who will end up getting the title shot, I think Bray's ability to transition in and out of these different characters is part of this overall story. And I think that him luring Braun Strowman into this swamp. And please, I hope we don't see the return of the trash monster who has made his way to the swamp.
Wait a minute. Did the Swamp Monster get signed to AEW with Chuck Taylor? Because otherwise he might get signed here.
There you go. So yeah, no, a lot of Gaga to your point, I think for sure. But I see actually Bray coming out on top, especially because you are correct. It is non-title. So I think that is the opening that makes or allows Braun Strowman to lose and then want to get revenge by putting up his title, which I think again will ultimately backfire. But we're not at SummerSlam yet, so we'll get there when we get there.
And you make a compelling point that could be Braun then says, I want one more shot at you and I'll put up the title. And then, Bray says, let me in and the lights go red or whatever. And now we see what's going to happen at SummerSlam. You make a compelling point. So watch me go down another match here down the road. I do think if you watch this one for what it is and just go with the story, from a cinematic standpoint, I can deal with it. I think that 3 potential cinematic or CGI enhanced, counting whatever they're going to do with his eye for an eye stupidity, 3 in one show is a little too much for me. I don't mind one match a show being the cinematic, or I've learned to accept it. I don't love it, but I've learned to accept it in this COVID world that we live in. 3 matches that way, it's a bit much for me. It's not making me really look forward to this show. I am planning to watch it reasonably live. I might start it a little late, start from the beginning. We'll see how Sunday plays out. But it's a little much.
I'm intrigued. This is the match I'm probably most intrigued for because they've done cinematic stuff relatively well. We've been
trash monsters.
We've been very clear about our frustrations where it hasn't. So yeah, I'm intrigued.
And then the last, what we think will be the main event, although they could order this in any way they want, but is the WWE title match with the stipulation to be announced at the show. Dolph Ziggler gets to pick that stipulation. He challenges Drew McIntyre for the world title. There was a photo that was briefly, I think, on Twitter today that said it was a table, ladders, and chairs match, but that those are placeholders sometimes too. That doesn't mean anything. And Ziggler made a comment, I think it was on the bump I read, that if he gets what he wants past WWE higher ups, this will be something we've never seen. Okay. That would not be table, ladders, and chairs. So interesting they had him say that. I hope they don't have him say that. Now, I was on the bump, and most people don't watch the bump. From what I can tell, I'm vaguely aware that there's a show called The Bump, but I've never actually watched it. But that was where they revealed that was John Morrison's first return when he came back. I know they'd announced it on Backstage. Way to pop a crowd, put him on a show nobody watches. But that neither being here nor there, that's a whole different segment. I have no idea what the stipulation will be. Like I said, that picture went up briefly today and people caught it, but who knows whether it really is going to be that. To me, it needs to be something interesting because they're not having him reveal it. If he comes out and says, haha, I've got you, Drew, it's going to be a steel cage match. Wah, wah. Okay, we've seen that. Who cares? Drew's been in steel cage matches before. He's been in whatever. It's got to be something that gives Ziggler an unfair advantage for McIntyre to overcome. And I just don't see a steel cage or even a TLC match to be that. And honestly, if it was just going to be a TLC match, put that out there before and advertise it and get people to want to watch that, because TLC matches do tend, I think, to draw. People like watching those. So I don't have any clue what the stipulation is, and I don't think it matters in the least. Dolph Ziggler is not winning the WWE title. Um, if Bobby Lashley isn't going to win it, they're not putting it on Dolph Ziggler. Now, Ziggler and McIntyre have some history. I think they'll have a good match. I think it'll be fine. Don't think it's going to be match of the night by any means, but I think it'll be another veteran that they can put in a notch in McIntyre's belt on, that he wins probably convincingly after a battle through whatever thing he has to overcome, whether it's Drew McIntyre with an arm behind his back, or I don't know what ridiculous. Maybe it's eye for an eye too. Maybe that's what this match is. I don't know. You win the title by putting the title belt around your opponent's eyeball. I don't know. I feel like I could be in a WWE creative meeting right now with that crap that I just said. But Tom, what do you have any thought on what that stipulation might be from Dolph Ziggler?
I don't, and I did not see that image that you had mentioned having gone up earlier on social media. I do agree with you. It has to be something that makes you go, "Oh my gosh, wow! I'm glad I'm tuning in for this," or like I'm actually worried about Drew losing the title, but I don't know what that can be. I honestly don't know what that can be. I don't think he's losing the belt. I think Drew McIntyre wins, and again, this is another notch on his continued championship reign. What I'm really hoping for here is like a really strong match. Dolph Ziggler is a guy that he's just been around for so long. And even when they try to freshen him up by trading him along with Robert Roode for AJ Styles, which is not a fair trade, and the fact that you come bragging after the fact, that's the deal. Like, who on Raw is making those decisions, and why? How did they get swindled so poorly? I mean, you let AJ go and he wins the IC belt. Obviously, you got hoodwinked. That being said, that's just sub context for this. Drew has been really solid and really believable, but I want the Drew McIntyre from NXT. I want the Drew McIntyre from Evolve, who had some great in-ring matches, and I just don't know that I felt like we've had that yet. I know we talked about obviously when they had him do the thing with Andrade pretty regularly on Raw, like that would have been something I could have seen. And those two guys very capable. These two are also very capable. So my hope here is again a stipulation to your point that pays off, that makes us go, okay, yeah, I'm you got my attention now, and two, that they just deliver in the ring. Again, if anyone thinks that it's Dolph Ziggler coming out with the title, you're crazy. So
I fully agree. And again, maybe we'll eat crow next week, but no, we're not going to eat crow. I know we were wrong about Evil, but we're not going to be wrong about Dolph Ziggler. There's not much we can do there. So overall, I think we had every same pick except for you have Bray Wyatt, which you kind of started talking me into, and I have Braun Strowman. I think either story works, but it'll be interesting to see how they go. So our hope next week is that we're going to get together and do two things. We are going to, and if anything else super important in the world of professional wrestling happens, we'll certainly talk about it. But we're going to do a three big things over Extreme Rules. And I'm sure one of us will talk about the eye for an eye, or maybe we won't because we want to forget that it ever happened. We'll update you on our standings on the pick'em. But then something that I think is going to be fun is we're hoping next week's episode will go up on Thursday, the 23rd, which is the 25th anniversary of In Your House 2, the second In Your House pay-per-view from WWF. Coincidentally, we'll be getting a one-day jump on Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard, who are also hoping to record and put that out, would be on their Friday drop. So listen to us, then listen to them, and know that we'll be better.
Yes.
I don't know if Bruce was there for that one or not. I think he was. I know sometimes they do shows he wasn't there, but I thought I would just run the card down real quick for that show just to tantalize some folks. We have a singles match starting off with the 1-2-3 Kid versus the Roadie, who of course we later know as the Road Dog Jesse James. There's a tag team match between Men on a Mission, King Mabel and Sir Mo, against Razor Ramon and Savio Vega. That's real early in Savio's run, I believe. They're in WWF. Singles match between Bam Bam Bigelow without Sir Oliver Humperdinck. This was much later. And Henry O. Godwin, Hog, right? Haha. We have an Intercontinental title match. Jeff Jarrett defends against Shawn Michaels. That should be fun. World Tag Team title match. Easy enough for me to say. Owen Hart and Yokozuna defend against the allied powers of Lex Luger and the British Bulldog. And then we have a world title match, a lumberjack match. Diesel defends against Psycho Sid. I got to admit, Tom, and we'll talk about this more next week. As much as I joke about Psycho Sid and his promo abilities, I was a huge Sid fan. I have Sid's Elite figure sitting right over here on the shelf. Maybe I'll bring that out next week. I was a big Sid fan. So I remember watching this show because I was a big Sid fan. So now I like some different things in my wrestling. Maybe my tastes have changed over the years.
It's 25 years later, so that's fair.
It is 25 years later. I'm not a teenager anymore. Was I a teenager then? That was a long time ago. I don't want to do the math. But I was a teenager in 95. Yeah, but I was a big Sid fan. So, hey, there's something maybe you didn't know about me. All the wrestling we've talked about, I may not have told you about my admiration for one Psycho Sid. Hopefully you'll still talk to me next week.
It's gonna come pouring out after you watch this show. Watch out.
I'm sure. I don't remember much about that match at this point, so it'll be fun to go back and watch. But Sid didn't have a whole lot of matches, to be perfectly honest, that made you go, wow, that was a great match. The one with Shawn Michaels at was it the Astrodome? No, the San Antonio. Anyways, wherever it was, down in Texas somewhere.
Alamo Dome.
Alamo Dome, thank you. That was a pretty good match, but Shawn Michaels could have a good match with a broomstick. So, and he did that night. So, so looking forward to that. Anything else, Tom, before we sign off on, we didn't quite make it under an hour, but we also didn't go 2 hour Broadway. So
there you go. Yeah, no, I'm pumped up to come back for episode 10. I think it's fitting for episode 10. We're doing something special with the rewatch, not rewatch and talk at the same time, but we're going to both rewatch that show ahead of its anniversary and then drop our thoughts about it 25 years later on its anniversary. I remember watching that live. I don't remember a lot of memories from 25 years ago, but this is actually one that is cemented in my memory. I remember where I was that night, whose house I was at, how we had pulled our money to order the pay-per-view. It was only $15. How one of the friends who was in threw a temper tantrum halfway through because of an argument and ran out of the house. And I was like, screw you, I'm not following you. I'm watching this show. I'm here for Shawn Michaels. So I won't get into that next week, but just, again, those tangible, concrete memories come right back when I think about this show. So I'm looking forward to watching it and getting caught up on those storylines from 25 years ago. I think I'm about less than a month after this, because it was before SummerSlam 95. I went to my, I think, second ever house show for WWE, or WWF at the time. So it's kind of just like a fun, nostalgic period. So it'll be fun to go down memory lane next week.
Absolutely. For me to go back to my first house show ever, I got to go all the way back to Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff worked the main event. So that puts it late 80s. That was some time ago. Tito Santana versus Kamala, first match I ever saw live. But anyways, maybe there's a show about our nostalgia and our memories of old house shows and other things that we attended. But until next week, until that happens, Tom, always a pleasure. Echo Tom's thoughts from the beginning. Hey guys, let's be safe and just wear a mask. Let's get through this thing. Stop making it political. It's just not. Let's just, if the medical people are right, then you're helping potentially save a life. And if they're wrong, you're inconvenienced for a little bit. Just let's get through it. Let's get back to normal, because I agree. This stuff. All right. On that happy note, we'll go ahead and sign off. And we will talk to you all next week. Like we said, the plan next week is that we'll drop it on Thursday, the 23rd, on the 25th anniversary of That In Your House. So keep an eye out for us on YouTube and Spotify and everywhere else. We will talk to you then. Have a great night, everybody.
See ya.